Hello, my name is Madeline and welcome to my channel Cozy Cottage Chapters, and welcome to a video that I have been really anticipating making, and that is my Victober TBR. I was hoping to get this up earlier, but life got in the way, so I'm very happy to be sitting down now and getting to share with you all of the books that I hope to read this upcoming October. This is a pretty ambitious TBR, more like a pile of possibilities. There's no way I'm going to get to all of these things, but I'm just in such a mood for Victorian literature that I wanted to assemble this amazing list of possibilities, things that I might pick up. These are the books that I am just most excited to get to. There are a lot of Victorian books I want to read, but right now these are the ones that just are capturing my interest the most. And I am really looking forward to this reading month. Like I said, I'm not going to get to all of these, and that is fine. This is low pressure. I have books picked out for the prompts, but if I don't fulfill them all, that's totally okay. I just want to be enjoying my reading. I want to just fall in love with some new favorite books this October. And I think I have some definite books that are going to become favorites, so I'm pretty excited about that. Without further ado, let's just get into the books. The first one that I know I'm going to be reading, and that is because it's a buddy read, my lovely friend Miriam, and that is The Claverings by Anthony Trollope. This will be my first Trollope novel. I read a short story of his, a Christmas short story, this past December, and I really enjoyed that. So I am excited to pick up a Trollope novel. I do think this is over 500 pages, so it's a bit long. But yes, Trollope is one of those authors that I've just been wanting to read, but I'm a little bit intimidated because he has so many long series, and I just don't really want to start a series right now. So I think starting with some of his standalones will hopefully inspire me to get to some of those series sooner rather than later. I don't have this book plugged in for one of the prompts, and that is because I know nothing about it. So I'm sure it'll probably fulfill some of the prompts. I don't know what. So I wanted to mention that up front. The other books, I think I have all of them plugged in somewhere, and I have multiple options for some of them and things like that. But we'll get into the prompts. So the first one is Kate's, and that is a Victorian book that has to do with friendship. So I have a few options here. The first is The Stokesley Secret by Charlotte Mary Yonge. I am falling very quickly in love with Charlotte Mary Yonge. I finished The Eyre of Redcliffe very recently and loved it. And I really want to have some Charlotte Mary Yonge on my Victober TBR, but I don't want to choose something very long because I have a lot of other long books. So this one is pretty short. I think it's under 200 pages. So I thought this would be a good option, and Kate mentioned it in her recommendation video for books that fulfill her prompt. She also mentioned Moorland, Cottage by Elizabeth Gaskell. This is a short story or a novella, somewhere along those lines, another short thing. I have a lot of chunky books and then a lot of short stories, novellas, shorter things to kind of balance it out a little bit. Because I don't want to be burnt out on reading a bunch of chunky classics. So Moorland, Cottage, Elizabeth Gaskell, another author that I have been falling in love with, and I want to read some Gaskell like Young, and so my theory was to do some short things so that I can try to include them and all of the other bigger books I want to read. So that is my plan for that prompt. Katie's prompt is to choose a piece of Victorian literature that is not a novel, poem, plays, short stories, things like that. So like I said, I have those two options, the Young and the Gaskell. Could double dip for this, but I also really want to get started in Sherlock Holmes. I have not read any Sir Arthur Conan Doyle yet, and I really want to, and so I plan on starting with A Study in Scarlet. This is a short story. There's A Study in Scarlet and The Sign of the Four in this book, and who knows, maybe I'll read both, but my plan is just to read A Study in Scarlet, and that will count for Katie's prompt. This would also be a good friendship one, now that I'm thinking about it, because Sherlock Holmes and Watson, I feel like as I go through this, I'm going to think, oh wait, all of these books can cross in different ways. But that's kind of the point. You can double up and triple up and etc. So I hope to read this one probably towards the end of the month. I think is when I'm going to focus more on my shorter works. Kind of try to get the bigger ones out in the beginning of the month, and then I can enjoy some short stories and shorter things towards the end. Unfortunately, my camera cut me off, and I don't know where it cut me off. But we're gonna move on to Marissa's challenge, which is about a change in social class. So I have picked out for this challenge the book Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. This will technically be a reread for me. I read it in high school and did not have a great time with Jane Eyre, but I'm fully confident that that was just me being a teenager and having required reading in school, and you know, I think as an adult reading this for pleasure and taking my time and just enjoying it, I will have a much better experience with it, and I'm really excited. This is probably my most anticipated read of Victober, and I am just hoping I'm going to love it as much as everyone else does. Alright, Roz's prompt is to go empire spotting and see how many mentions of the British Empire you can find in your reading. So I don't have any books particularly picked out for this. I am just going to see if it's something that comes up at all, and it'll be nice to have like another thing to look for in my reading to pay extra attention to, and to kind of keep myself engaged a little bit more in my reading. So that will be very interesting. Elizabeth's prompt is to read something by an underrated Victorian woman writer. So Charlotte Mary Young would definitely count for that, and that was my main option for that prompt. Hannah's prompt is to read something that discusses education. So I have a couple of options for that one. Again, Jane Eyre totally works for that. Jane is a governess. I also have already started The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. I am listening to this on audio, and I'm about 150 pages into the book, and I'm really enjoying this. This would count as well because we have Walter, who is a art teacher, a drawing teacher, and yeah, I am really excited for this one. I think it's gonna have all of those great autumnal, spooky kind of vibes to it, and the audiobook is really fun to listen to as well. I did not realize that this was going to be told from different characters' points of view, and I'm really enjoying that. Apparently, Wilkie Collins does a lot of fun things in his stories with formatting and multimedia and journal entries and all kinds of fun things. So I'm really excited to dive into Wilkie Collins, because I think this is going to be an author that I really enjoy, and so far I'm already enjoying The Woman in White, so that would count for education as well. Jess's prompt is to read something set in a different era, and I have a short story by Elizabeth Gaskell picked out for this, and that is Lois the Witch. This is set during the Salem witch trials, which sounds really interesting. And again, I think it's going to have fun, kind of spooky autumnal vibes to it, and be a good thing to read towards the end of this month. And it's a short story, so it'll help balance out some of the chunky books that I've been talking about. Elena's prompt is to spin a digital color wheel and choose a book with a cover that is that color. And I spun the wheel, I got yellow, and I immediately thought of incorporating reading some fairy tales from the different, you know, colored fairy tale books by Andrew Lang. And so I want to read a little bit, at least, from the yellow fairy book. It's quite long, so I'm not going to probably read all of the fairy tales, but I thought this would be kind of a fun palette cleanser, something to pick up in between different things. And it'll also fulfill Roy's prompt, which is to read a work of Victorian fantasy. And I'm not a huge fantasy reader, so it was nice to kind of double up these two prompts and have one thing that can fulfill both of them. So I'm really excited to read some fairy tales. I think that will be fun. Catherine's prompt is to read something that has a connection to Jane Austen. And so you can take this as broadly as you want, I assume. And Charlotte Mary Young was one that I thought of. I feel like she has a lot of similarities in her writing to Jane Austen, and she apparently was also born and died, I think, in the same region as Jane Austen. So that would connect them in that way. Also, Jane Eyre could be another option for that. I think I have mentioned mostly everything. Oh, I did forget one other book. I would like to start, I know I'm going to start it, I'm not going to finish it, I'm going to carry it over into November, December. I hope to finish it by the end of the year. And that is a Charles Dickens, and I want to read Our Mutual Friend. I did this last year with Dombey and Son. I read it from October through December, and I just loved having a Dickens book to curl up with as the weather gets colder, as the days get darker. Dickens characters are so quirky and so fun and just lovely company, I feel like, for winter time. And I'm just really looking forward to reading this. I know a lot of people are reading it. Well, they started in September for Kate Howe's Patreon. But I just want to really slowly take my time with this and have this be kind of one of the last books I read this year. I think it's a nice way to kind of close out the year on Dickens. So I'm really looking forward to this, and like I said, I might not get very far this month, but that's okay. I just want to at least start it. And then I will continue on in November and December with this. I did realize there's one other thing I failed to mention, and that is Loss and Gains by St. John Henry Cardinal Newman. This is very, very tentative on my TBR pile of possibilities. I probably am not going to get to this in all honesty, but I like the idea of trying to read some Newman for this Victober, kind of in honor of him being named a Doctor of the Church. And this is also a book I started last Victober but did not make it very, very far into, and I would like to read it. It's would work well for the education prompt also because it takes place in a university, and we're following this young man's conversion from Protestant to Catholic, and kind of the losses in his life and then the gains. And like I said, I would like to read it. I just kind of got bogged down in his very cool tangents, and I just got very bogged down reading it, but maybe this year I can kind of power through, because I do know there are going to be some really beautiful points, and I think I'm going to enjoy the story. I just have to get through the theological density of it. Anyways, that is it for my Victober TBR. Like I said, I'm so excited to read some of these things. So excited that I already started The Woman in White. And I'm just hoping it's going to be a lovely reading month with lots of new favorite books. And if you're participating in Victober, let me know what you're most excited to read. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye!